I came from the East Coast and moved here 13 years ago, and I was doing yoga every week, surfing, playing beach volleyball, eating organic food, shopping at the farmer's market, and kombucha was a natural fit. I started homebrewing kombucha along with Andrew and my sister. Andrew's married to my sister, so we started experimenting with kombucha brewing maybe 8-10 years ago, and I eventually opened up a restaurant and started selling homebrew kombucha at the restaurant on tap. Saw the huge demand for it. People were flocking in from all over San Diego County, and sparked the idea of a kombucha brewery, but didn't have the time or the resources. And then 2 years later was able to kind of make it happen with Andrew and one other guy, and that was really the start for me and how we kind of got into this whole thing.
I started off being obsessed with beer, thinking about, drinking, learning about the scene I liked the people, I liked knowing all about the breweries and what they were putting into it. But then over time, the consumption of it caught up with my body and I started developing sensitivities to it. I started feeling really tired and bloated and like skin problems. And I had to give it up. It was like my passion, it was my heart and soul. Luckily, that was exactly the time that I was approached by Adam and Todd to pursue this alternative drink. It was a no-brainer. I was a corporate slave for 10 years. I had a lot of free time during the day and spent most of it playing around on the computer at work, looking up what recipes I was going to make next, what the science behind X, Y, or Z was. So when I finally make it home at 5 p.m., my day would begin and I would do all of the stuff that I had been longing to do while researching. All of my spare time was spent fermenting stuff. As soon as it became clear that this was game on, I just walked right into my boss's office and told him I would like to be fired immediately.
All right, so right now we're gonna go ahead and infuse and add juice. And right now I'm just gonna add some of this grape juice, but first I gotta dilute it and then run that through the pump. And then from there, we're gonna do some anise and coriander infusion and just let that circulate through the tank for a few thousand gallons. And so right now what we're doing is we're going from this brink tank to the pump and then into this tank right now. And we're probably gonna do this about 4 more times.
When we started this right off the bat, day one, I knew that we needed to have distribution and to have it through Stone. And I had some connections with them through selling their beer and kind of using them as one of our main suppliers for beer at my restaurant. You know, we built this place to size for what we thought Stone might require, you know, from a production standpoint. And I started networking with the owner there and was able to get a meeting with him through a connection of mine. And like we sat down, the first meeting with him, we gave him some like homebrew, high alcohol kombucha. He loved it. We signed our distribution contract with Stone 6 to 8 months before we started selling product. So they kind of believed in us and bought in before we even had product ready, just through sampling our 5-gallon small batches in Andrew's garage. You know, once we locked in that distribution contract with Stone, we knew that, okay, now all we have to do is figure out this product.
So today we're gonna add 5 pounds of coriander and like 3 pounds of anise and just taste it every 500 gallons of circulation to see what happens.
Grinding up coriander is important because it contains these really potent terpenes, linalool and pinene. Actually the same found in hops that give it like the real piney and real poppy aromas, like sometimes fruity. Oh, there's also like a citrus component too. I just noticed that if we don't crack them open, you don't really get much of that lemony orange aspect to it.
I think that's working pretty well.
Yeah, perfect.
Solid. Yeah, that's super aromatic immediately.
Yes.
The original idea was let's make a kombucha brewery. And then somewhere early on in that process, Andrew said, hey, let's make high alcohol kombucha.
The thought of this culminated from a lot of different sources. I mean, there's the health component from having witnessed diminished health from drinking beer. I still wanted that social lubricant, that opportunity to bring people together. I also took the other trends in the marketplace at the time. A lot of people are taking probiotic supplements, a lot of people are juicing. There's this juice craze, the cold pressed juices. And so when I was thinking, what can we do, how can we advance this kombucha idea, I was like, let's just put all that together. So now we have a living alcohol that's infused with nutrition and probiotics, and you're basically drinking the healthiest alcohol you can think of.
It's got everything you would want from a regular kombucha. Organic cold pressed juices that have never been pasteurized, that go straight into the product so that they're preserved and oxygen is removed through carbonation. And then we just crank up the alcohol.
It took a long time to figure out all the right steps in the process. You have such a difficult environment to ferment yeast in. The pH is really low, there's a lot of competing organisms in there, and it ended up being a lot harder than I thought. You'd think you could just pitch some yeast and have it work, but the yeast would just sink straight to the bottom of the vessel and it would never wake up. So I went through this whole journey of going to every brewery supply store, every wine supply store, liquor supply store, asking any microbiologist I could find, reading any book, blog post, or study I could find on the metabolism of yeast and the nutrient requirements and the nitrogen requirements. Finally, after having 20 batches going at a time for pretty much a whole year and trying every different type of yeast from every type of lab I could ever think of, I finally landed on the right solution, and that was nice.
Mind you, this was post locking in a distribution contract, already having halfway built out a facility. We still hadn't actually figured out how to make high alcohol kombucha, so that was interesting. But we knew we could do it, and we had full faith in Andrew, and so we just, we knew it was possible.
Traditionally, you might climb up to the top of the tank and dump the tea bag in with the botanicals into the top of the tank, or weigh it down so it doesn't float. We found we have better success with putting it into these brink kegs and then recirculate it with a pump in and out of the tank over and over until we get the desired extraction and color. The nice thing about doing it this way is we can pull one herb out of the loop when we feel like that has achieved the flavor profile we want. We can let the other one continue. The experimentation here never stops. Pretty much every day I want to try something else. And when a tank frees up, first thing I do is I hit up all of our fruit suppliers and I ask them what's available, what's in season, what can we get. And once I have that, then I go home, get all my testing, measuring equipment out, and then I run to the store and I sniff every single tea, every single herb, dried herb that I can find. I walk up and down all the aisles just looking for inspiration. What flavors have we not hit on yet? Or what colors of the product have we not hit on, the finished product? I spend all weekend putting them together. I just try this, I try it cold, I try it hot, I try different combinations. You can't just taste each individual ingredient. It has to be like, I like to say 1 + 1 + 1 has to be 4. It has to be like something different, something new. I want people to look at the bottle and go, what the? I've never seen that before. That sounds cool. The main undercurrent in all of it is that there's a very intentional theme of health. And synergy between the ingredients. That's the one thing that I always hold myself to, is that there's a very purposeful and intentional combining of ingredients.
It's a unique product. It's not beer, it's not regular kombucha, it's not cider, it's not mead, it's high alcohol kombucha. And that's where we kind of love living in this space where we are the only ones there and really kind of mapping out the space and creating the market, which is nice.